Good morning. What's been happening? Welcome to the Sunday Blether. It's been a while, guys. There's no getting away from it. I've not been on the Sunday Blether for it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou was the manager the last time you were on.
What do you mean? Has something happened? Has something happened while I've been away?
Oh wow, you've missed a lot. Yes, something has happened. Yes.
What have I missed? Ange's away.
Sit down, Dave, and we'll tell you a tale. Pan around, son.
Do you guys still want me? If Ange's
of course, mate. As long as I'm here, you're here, and all that jazz, all that stuff. Yes.
I'll go get my Boise Bus shirt on. I'll be back then. Right, well, guys, welcome to the Sunday Blether. It's dignified once again. You can all relax. We'll get back in order. As you can see, I am joined by my usual Sunday guests. We've got Mr. Friday Night, Phil McGinley, who we had a wee break from Bustalgia on Friday. Mm-hmm. Phil, as if there's something else to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In past seasons, we can
very much.
Yes, so. Well, Jim C. David's back on the bus. I am back, and of course, we've got the judge who's doing his best Regan impression today and not on screen. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. Sorry you can't see my handsome face, but I don't want to turn this into a Charles Green interview on my deathbed, but I'll get my feet resting up on the sofa, on the puffy, so I've damaged my foot. I didn't want to come across like I was confessing my sins to Glasgow Rangers. I've got a wee injury. I'm sitting up here like feeling sorry for myself, so I don't want to subject the viewers to me with my gas mask on and my bowl of grapes. I'll leave that for another week.
Well, that's good. It's good. As like I was saying just before we came on, it's like we've got like a special guest today. That raspy sound coming through the audio there. Well, I'm enjoying.
I am very special, mate. I've been told that a few times, mostly by people in the education system, but we'll leave that at where it is.
And we are going to be joined by Regan. He has had a link sent. He's getting himself set up. He will be here soon enough, but we thought we would get the show on the road because we've got a lot to talk about. But before we do that, Phil, I'm a bit rusty, but we're going to give it a go. It's all about that good stuff. So hit that subscribe button, give us a like and a share, become a Boise Bus member for a small cost of £1.99. There is no extra content. However, all our content is free, and we put hours and hours, especially Steve right now. Jeez, he beeps, man. All these power hours he's been clanging and banging, getting these guns out on the show, all that content, it's all out there, it's all free, but all that $1.99 to become a Boise Bus member, it just keeps the wheels rolling, baby. Okay, and of course it might be off season, but that doesn't mean the orders have to stop. Get on to piesports.com and put in the checkout the code BUS1888 to get 12.5% off all your tasty pastry treats from piesports.com. And of course, for all you horny bastards out there, head on down to ED Pharmacy. Don't be like Ange Postecoglou and leave before you even get started. Be like Brendan Rodgers. If you leave early, come back bigger, better, and wanting some more. ED Pharmacy, there you go. So if you're around Central Scotland, they offer free same-day delivery service 7 days a week. And for the rest of the UK, they aim for next-day delivery. And order cut-off time is 6 p.m. There's no hidden fees, and the prices that you are seeing there are the prices that you pay. Unless, of course, you use the promo code BUS10 and get checkout of 10% off. So be like Brendan and come back bigger, better, harder.
I knew you were going to say
and
that.
Already, and head down for a nice wee trip. I mean, a Euro trip. Right.
Yes,
indeed. Right, let's get all that housekeeping out of the way. All right, okay.
Yep.
Guys, the papers are oozing with all the content of fear-mongering and scaremongering, negativity that we're all used to. But I've seen a nice little headline today that I quite like, that Desmond is set to break Celtic tradition for Brendan Rodgers if he so happens to return. Apparently, they're about to give him a 5-year deal with Celtic on Monday. That's tomorrow, guys. So get your calendars marked. It's marking a significant moment in the club's recent history. For the longest time now, any manager coming into the club, including Brendan when he first signed, were giving a 12-month rolling contract, and it looks as if Mr. Desmond is willing to give the maestro that is Brendan Rodgers a 5-year contract. Now, is this, Mark, what the club were probably going to promise Ange Postecoglou? And Brendan's probably come in and said, if you want me to come back, I want everything that you are apparently going to give to the Aussie man who's now down in London town. Terrible London accent, I do apologise.
It sounded more like Canadian than London, mate, but I'll move on for that. I think the two that the ambitions and views on Celtic are maybe a bit different. I think they've probably got ambitions, of course, to be winning and try and make Celtic more successful. But I do feel like, and I felt like it then, I thought Brendan Rodgers did want to restructure the club to a more professional, almost EPL-like setup. And I feel like the assurances he's been given have been given by the club to kind of carry on from where he left off. I feel like if he was going to come back to Celtic, he would have had the assurances that, okay, the signing policy will be down to him. He'll no longer have Peter Lawwell button in. I think he was always wanting a one vision from the under 10s to the first team, how we play football, how it's structured, the professionalism in between. And Brendan Rodgers will bring that instantly. We can't guarantee success at Celtic. We never can. I mean, it's a 2-horse race, but when you get 2 horses, that means both horses can win. So you can't guarantee that Celtic can win. But what the club have done is, if they appoint Rodgers, and I think they will tomorrow, they give Celtic fans the very best opportunity to see success. And if we're seeing these figures being bandied out with 5-year contracts, now let's get one thing right here. Brendan Rodgers is the longest serving Celtic manager, Neil Lennon aside, since Gordon Strachan was hired in 2005. Let's not pretend the guy walked away after a long weekend. He spent 4 years at Leicester and was let go, rightly so, because the club was heading downwards. That wasn't his fault entirely. I think we all know the reasons why Leicester's last season in the Premier League was so bad, because they didn't invest, they didn't replace key players, and you've got guys at 35, 36 as your main striker. That doesn't work in the EPL. So Brendan Rodgers isn't entirely to blame there. So the structure that Celtic are going to offer him, in terms of, I think, the first season under Ange, I think Celtic would have reverted to type, bought in 1 or 2 players, sold and made a profit. This is a fresh start for Celtic. We might see us going to a different level, because Dermot Desmond has stepped in. And when he steps in, Celtic normally step up. And if he's personally dealt with this, and I think he has personally dealt with this, the assurances he'll be given can't be vetoed by Peter Lawwell or trampled on by anybody in the board. And for me, that means success at Celtic, because one thing Brendan Rodgers is going to bring is professionalism, a structure that we can all see on the park, and dealing with the media like nobody else can. And I think Celtic fans, looking at these headlines this morning, I see one guy in the Daily Mail saying that Rodgers was a failure at Celtic and he'll fail again. I mean, that's the stuff they're going to get used to. But one thing about these things, David, see the more scared these bastards get, the more vicious they get in their desperation. And that's good for Celtic, because one thing that Celtic fans love today is bookmark these stupid tweets so they get back and ram it up in their throats. And Celtic will always be successful in Scotland. The measure of that success is on Celtic, no on Rangers. So they can sit there and beam out all their wee stupid headlines all they want, because Celtic did a talk around the park. And that starts when the season starts, and Brendan Rodgers on the touchline. That's good enough for me.
Yes. Well, I'm just seeing in the comments there. What's up with the eyes, David? I've just been crying into my pillow for the last 3 weeks, knowing that Ange left. No, it's hay fever. I went and paid 70 quid for one of these fucking hay fever injections 3 weeks ago, and as you can see, it's working a treat. So, Phil, speaking of that tripe that was on the Daily Mail this morning or last night, saying that Rodgers had failed. I think they were more alluding to the fact that he apparently failed in Europe. Now, yes, okay, there was a few scuttings along the way with the PSGs and the Barcelonas of this world. However, I do think Rodgers, when he first came in his first season back, it was to, the aim was to get Celtic back into the Champions League. And we were going through stages where we couldn't get through the qualifiers. We couldn't get through the qualifiers and get into Champions League football. Rodgers did that. I think it was 3 separate stages of qualifying to get to the Champions League. And I think we started that off with a loss to a certain Lincoln Red Imps.
Lost the first leg.
Yep. We got there now. If I fairly remember, was it only last season that Rangers had to go through 1 qualifying round, and it was seen as a massive mountain to climb and a massive success.
It was 2 that they went through last year.
Oh, it was 2? Wow, even bigger mountain.
They played a Belgian team, and then they played Eindhoven in the playoff round.
Of course. Well, of course, that was a massive success, and well done to Rangers for doing that. But apparently, when we look back now, that was apparently a massive failure that Celtic beat the minnows of the European backwaters to get to the Champions League final. That is now no longer seen as a success. Back then, just seen as a failure. What do you have to say about such comments made in the Daily Mail?
I used to use the word quite accurately. Tripe is probably the best way to describe it. It seems to be the narrative always changes, because at the time, going back to that point, these weren't the things that were getting said when Celtic were going by Lincoln Red Imps, and I think it was Astana. Did we play them as well? And then it was at Hapoel Beersheva, and that nerve-wracking playoff. That was brutal, that game. Nobody at that time was saying about the quality of the teams. It seems like in hindsight, as time has gone by, whether it's domestic success or in Europe, it seems like the narrative changes now, and you're getting things thrown at Brendan's time at Celtic of, he was playing against weak teams. And again, that's not Celtic's problem. That's not Celtic's fault. We're always told about you can only beat what's put in front of you. But it seems like, a few years down the line, everyone's changing it now. It was the weakest Rangers team he was up against. And that whole thing about getting through those European rounds. How many times in the last, under multiple different managers, have Celtic been dumped out of Europe by a minnow club? Ferencváros, then Cluj knocked us out one time. And even getting into some of the European competitions and some of the teams that have managed to beat us along the way, like Molde and stuff like that. So, we can't take any of these teams lightly. Having to navigate all those qualifiers is an achievement in itself, because you've got up against teams as well that have been playing for X amount of months, some of them, because their season starts at a different time of the year. It's always tricky to navigate these things. But at the time, I don't remember anybody making a big song and dance out of it, or such weak teams Celtic played to get into these competitions. But it's only now with hindsight, they're going back and the narrative changes, whether they're talking about domestic or European. And again, going back to the word that you said at the very start, tripe. That's what I file it under. Absolute tripe. The headline also was set up to purposely clickbait people. It was Brendan Rodgers failed first time at Celtic and he'll fail again. But it didn't say the European part about it. It just said he's going to fail. You're like, how can he have failed? He won 7 trophies out of 7 that he entered. But it's just absolute nonsense, mate. And I just try my best just to shut myself off from it.
Regan, Phil mentioned obviously that the narrative is even that Rangers team that you beat. Now, there's no doubt about it. They are a far better squad than they were when Rodgers used to play them. We didn't have Morelos or Kent or Aribo or Arfield they did. They did have them. They had McGregor, Tavier, Goldson, Barisic, Kamara, Jack, Arfield, Aribo, Kent, Morelos, and Defoe. Well, we played Lewis Morgan up front and still beat them and won a treble that year. But, that Rangers team was shite apparently back then. So, maybe it was.
And I'd just like to point out as well, people I believe in Sky Sports, I think Sky Sports actually said in a piece last week that Rangers weren't in the top flight during Rodgers' whole spell. That was Michael Bridge, who's supposed to be a Rangers supporter. He said live on Sky Sports Transfer News, he said, you could call back and look at it, David, he said Rangers weren't in the top flight during Rodgers' full spell at Celtic. You can go back and look at it if you want.
Wow.
That Rangers team, these Rangers teams that he went up against didn't look too bad, according to the Rangers fans, when they were saying they were going for 55 every season that they came up against Brendan Rodgers Celtic. So,
David, I think that's a great point you make, and I think it's a bit short-sighted for those fans. I just said Michael Bridge as an example. I mean, some of the delusion that's coming out the last few weeks is crazy, because if you look at Brendan Rodgers' record, I think Phil and Russell did a great show on Friday, and they were basically talking about this whole narrative that Brendan Rodgers coming back. Brendan Rodgers is coming back 10 times a better manager. He is. But because he led Leicester to a European semi-final.
Yeah.
He got them to a 5th place finish. See if they'd have bet Spurs on the last day of the season, they would have got Champions League football. You know what I mean? That's,
Yeah. I think Leicester balled it 2 years in a row to get into the top 4, didn't they? They were in a really good pole position, and just a bit of a collapse happened at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think Mark makes a good point as well. They had 35-year-old Jimmy Vardy and they had Danny Ward, who was terrible at Aberdeen, playing in goal.
So bad.
So I think,
Danny Ward, man. Oh, God.
so I think you also need to wait up and say, well, Brendan was making noises throughout the whole season that he wasn't being backed. He was also telling you that he was doing his best. And I think when they bring in somebody like Dean Smith with 3 games to go, that just shows you that see when you've got a squad that is past its sell-by date. I think Rodgers knew exactly what he was doing. I think he was waiting to leave because he knew that squad wasn't good enough.
I mean, obviously, you have to look back at the awful events that happened to Leicester losing their owner in that helicopter crash, and of course with COVID hitting and the airports all shut down, a lot of their revenue comes from the duty free. If there's no money coming from the duty free, then they're not making any money. So obviously football, especially in the Premier League, is a very expensive business to be in, and that's the money dried up, and just kind of like what happened with Celtic in terms of not being given the funds to do his job. The job that he'd set out to do. Ultimately, it was becoming a very uphill battle at Leicester, and I don't think you can blame Rodgers fully on the results that Leicester were on. And like you said, like they went down inevitably, they were heading down. Whether they would have went down with Rodgers still in charge or not, we'll never know. But you can't. I don't think we can fully blame Rodgers on that. So let's just deep dive a bit into this, Mark. All right, I've got some questions laid out for the panel, and I'm just going to start rattling through them. Okay, so what should be the expectations for this coming up campaign? If Brendan Rodgers, looking more and more likely, he is going to be the next manager, unless there's some dramatic twist, which I don't think there will be, but if he comes in, what should be the expectations of the campaign? Is it another treble, or is it seen as a failure? Do we get to the knockout rounds of the Champions League, or do we go into a Europa League run? Like, what is the expectations for you as a Celtic fan and a season ticket holder for next season?
Well, I think we have to temper it a wee bit. We can't expect trebles. I mean, trebles have been dished out like confetti at a wedding the last few years for Celtic fans, and I think we've got to get into the season with the expectation that Celtic will be set up to win the title. Anything above that in terms of cups is a bonus, and a bonus that I welcome, because I think Celtic are synonymous with winning trophies, and especially the Scottish Cup. But I think I wouldn't be expecting Rodgers to go and get to the knockout stage of the Champions League, because I think that's too much to put on one man. Don't forget, there will be a transition period here with Celtic and Brendan Rodgers, because there might be players in that team who are stalwarts just now, who just don't fit into Brendan Rodgers' game plan. So there will be a transition period that we're going to have to get used to. I think we'll be set up to win the league. Europe will be an ambition for Brendan Rodgers. I think that's been part of the discussions. I believe that maybe he's left Celtic the last time because he's felt that he's hit a glass ceiling that wasn't quite at Celtic's level, where he felt Celtic could go to the next level. And I think he will get back in this time. I genuinely do feel that. I might be naive, but I think he'll get back in even beyond what the fucking kangaroo that left was guaranteed. And not only that, I think we shouldn't be sitting here. I'm not just talking about you guys. We shouldn't be sitting here trying to justify our excitement for Brendan Rodgers coming back. No newspaper or no journalist can give me a negative story about Leicester, or stories of Gucci belts that's going to make me dissatisfied with this guy coming back to Celtic. We don't need to justify to England or any other fan base in Scotland our excitement about this guy. This guy came in here, absolutely ripped the piss out of everybody he played against. He's so far above anybody in that league, both mentally and technically, that we don't need to sit here and explain why we're excited about it. He will, I guarantee you, have eyes on winning the league this year at Celtic, which is no mean feat because Rangers are a bit better. But also, I think if you're being honest with yourself, this guy didn't come back to win the league. He came back to, I think, put plasters on a few wounds. Well, he could fix my feet as well while he's there. But he's got to put a few plasters on a few wounds. Try and make a wee dent in Europe relatively at Celtic. And that might not be this season, David, but one thing's for sure, he will give everything he's got, and so will the club to win this title next season, because next season's Champions League is a different ball game. It gives us more money, more revenue for the club to spend on infrastructure. 8 games guaranteed, I think it is, or maybe even 10. The game changes next season for Europe, and Brendan Rodgers might be more into the long game for Celtic than what we're expecting, because you don't sign a 5-year contract, albeit a contract is only worth like your buyout clause. You don't sign that with the expectation you're going in 18 months. So I'm looking forward to it, David. Give me the title and I'll be happy with that. Anything above that is very exciting to think about.
Yeah.
Sorry, David, I just want to jump in. See that point there that Matt makes about the European format changing? I think that's a great point because there's more avenue for Celtic to develop in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Phil, Brendan Rodgers' first stint as a manager, I think it's safe to say that he made a lot of players in the squad he inherited far better players. Yep. Should our current crop of treble winners, the majority of them see a jump up in another level being under Rodgers, and is that a reason in itself for the players that we already have wanting to stay a little bit longer? You know, if their eyes began to wander towards the exit door, they start to see Brendan Rodgers walking towards them. Is that enough to keep them to stay?
I'd like to think so, because the guy's got the track record to prove it. So he's got managed at a very high level, and he's got a lot of success at the club previously. And yeah, you're right. The first time around, he inherited a squad that was pretty much on its knees after getting beat by that weak Rangers side that people keep talking about. They were playing against Rob Kiernan and stuff like that. Well, that Rangers team also knocked us out of the Scottish Cup the season before. So again, it's that whole, you can't really have your cake and eat it with this one, guys. But yeah, we were on our knees after losing to that Rangers team. Ronnie Dyler obviously walked away at the end of that season, and there were so many players on the scrap heap that you could have just went, if he left, wouldn't be bothered. Nobody cares, mate. Stuart Armstrong, if he walked away that summer, wouldn't have been that bothered. But he was one of the players that came on leaps and bounds. He was phenomenal under Brendan Rodgers, and in the end, we ended up getting about $7 million for him in the last year of his contract, which was too bad a deal in the end. But the 2 years that he played under Rodgers, he was fantastic, and he was one that was on the scrap heap. James Forrest obviously speaks for itself. James Forrest was another one where he'd always just been on the cusp of something special at Celtic, where he would have wee periods where he'd be going for it. But under Rodgers, he was consistently good. And that battle he had with Patrick Roberts, I think, kept him sharp as well, kept him at the top of his game. And Scott Brown, Scott Brown was one that loads of people were like, oh, he's done. He's definitely finished after those 2 years under Dyler. And he found another gear again. So players in the current squad must look at that and think we can, there's players on the periphery right now at Celtic that have kind of been in and out of the team, guys like Abada. Everyone keeps on saying that Abada's definitely leaving and all that, but they might now look at Brendan Rodgers coming in and think, what can he do for me, essentially? He might sit down with Abada in his first day and just, give him that confidence and build him up. You never know. He could be like James Forrest levels under him. There's obviously some guys in the team as well, like Tumble and stuff like that, who are in and out at times. Maybe Brendan Rodgers can find something in them. Who knows? I'm just speculating at the moment. Ultimately, I do think we will invest. I will think there will be some exciting players coming in the door. But yeah, there are some players there that are just kind of lingering around, and it's like, you never know. I say there were so many players back in 2016 where we just didn't expect them to find the level that they did. So somebody may surprise us, David. There may be somebody in that team right now that's sitting there and will be like, in a year's time, going, man, what a season he had. Never saw that coming. So,
yeah. No, absolutely. Vegan, is there anyone in particular that's in our current squad that you think he has the potential to really go up another level under Brendan Rodgers? But obviously, you've got likes of Kyogo Hitati, Haksabanovic, Barnaby, Maeda. Any of these guys that you see that you go, wow, I can't wait to see what Brendan does with him in a different maybe formation, a different tactic, different style. He could really thrive under Brendan.
Well, I think as much as Jota's done well, I think Jota will go to a different level under Rodgers. You just need to look at something like James Forrest, as Phil was saying earlier. James Forrest was a great player for Celtic, but as soon as Brendan Rodgers came in, he was totally different. I think Jota can go to totally different levels. I think the interesting one you were talking about there, Phil, was David Turnbull as well. Because because I think what you said there was Stuart Armstrong, and Stuart Armstrong was in the exact same position, not playing on the bench as well. So I think for somebody like Stuart Armstrong, David Turnbull, I think David Turnbull might actually say, well, but look what Brendan Rodgers did with Stuart Armstrong. And I think he might say, well, he's still pretty young, he's still pretty energetic, and he's still and see if you look at David Turnbull, see every time he was on the park last season, he scored a goal. So I think David Turnbull, I think you probably just need to watch this space with David Turnbull, because he probably could be the one guy we go, I didn't expect that from him.
Aye.
But sorry, boys, I had to just nip away for a wee second there. David Turnbull, do you think he will still be here next year? I'd be quite surprised if he isn't one of the ones that's looking to move, even with Brendan coming in.
I think we are changing our manager. That breeds a new sense of life for the people. And I think if Brendan sits down and goes, oh, look at the squad, I think the ones he'll be trying to move on will be James McCarthy, players like that, because I'm looking at David Turnbull. Maybe a change of manager is probably the best thing that could happen for him, because I don't think, as much as I like Ange, I don't think David Turnbull was ever Ange's flavour of the month. So I think if you look at David Turnbull, this could be a change in his Celtic time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've seen a comment there saying that obviously Barnaby will be probably glad to see the back of the inverted full-back role, because he certainly did not seem to be able to grasp that, Mark. You know, he just totally had no clue what he was being asked to do. It does make me wonder how Greg Taylor will get on. I mean, he seemed to really thrive under it. He really seemed to understand his role. He enjoyed getting into the midfield. I mind him saying in an interview that he actually was a midfielder who converted to left back. So he was quite comfortable moving into the inside. Do you see the likes of Greg Taylor still being around next season, or still being the number one choice left back?
Well, I think Rodgers was quite adamant that he liked overlapping fullbacks in his first stint at Celtic. You know, with Kieran Tierney going forward quite a lot. In fact, I think Scott Sinclair, his second season at Celtic, I think, was hampered by Rodgers accommodating Tierney, moving Sinclair in one a wee bit. He was almost 10, 15 yards inside the touchline, and I felt like Sinclair was better running towards a man than getting the ball and turning. I felt like he was hindered by the overlapping fullbacks, and I think you've seen the same with Lustig. So there will still be places in the team, I think, for that type of player. It can be fluid, you know what I mean? They can be moving in and out. I think the overlapping fullbacks at Celtic and the inverted fullbacks, I don't think there's much of a difference, to be quite honest with you. I just think they're coming in a bit more. You know what I mean? I don't think it was strange to see somebody like Kieran Tierney coming in from the byline when he was going forward, or moving into the box. He did that quite a lot. Kieran Tierney was involved in a lot of Celtic goals where he was involved in the second phase of attack. You know what I mean? And you find that if you look closely, I think Michael Lustig was always an eye shot of any goal Celtic scored. So Celtic have always had that kind of type of player, even for the 60s. And Brendan Rodgers, Regan touched on it there. I think Rodgers' football was a lot slower. That might just suit David Turnbull, because one of my biggest criticisms about David Turnbull is he likes too much time on the ball. And when you're suffocating teams, I don't think the pace of the ball matters. So maybe David Turnbull, who can maybe pick a pass or two. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but there could be guys like that. Just quickly on Burnaby, all kidding aside, I don't think the guy can defend either. So I can't see a place for him in the team. He's not got anything about him that would suggest he's at Celtic's level. And on Dies in Maeda, I'm sure I won a bet last season. I'm not entirely sure what the consequence of that bet was.
What are we talking about?
Some guy with a beard bet me was it 20 goals for Maeda, and I'm only going to say the guy was pretty good. But what was it? What was the forfeit? Was it you do a podcast in your boxer shorts or something? Was that what it was? What was the forfeit? I can't remember.
Be careful what you wish. Be careful what you wish for. That's all I'm saying. Be careful what you wish for. I was just getting petters with Barnaby pronunciation. Listen, I'm trying to get the cobwebs off your Rebel 86. Give me a break, mate.
Don't you be slating that man, Barnaby, David. He gets enough abuse. I hope he gets a lot of. I hope he gets abuse for his family, because that's how bad he is. He deserves shunned out of Christmas dinners. Sent back to Argentina with his tail between his legs and asked never to come back to the country. And I would suggest a prison sentence as well, just for these carry on.
one of Mr. Postecoglou's maybe worse signings.
One of many, David. One of many. Let's not pretend that he was this guru when it came to transfers. He was great with his first 11 players, but his squad padding was very, very bang average at best. I think all his squad players would struggle to get into the Hearts team. There you go.
Strong words from the judge. Speaking of recruitment, Phil, I think it's safe to say that Ben Rodgers his recruitment over the years can somewhat be quite criticised and scrutinised. I think his recruitment has been looked at over the last couple of weeks. Certainly last week. I think we can all kind of agree that most of his signings were quite lacklustre. There's no getting away for that either. You can argue to the cows come home it wasn't his fault and it was the board, and he was getting players signed that he hadn't even heard of. But I mean, his track record for signing players doesn't match up as well as the making players that he's inherited a lot better. I mean, you can even look back at his Liverpool days. For every Bobby Firmino, there was a £32 million spent on Christian Benteke and Fabio Barini, and for every £8 million Coutinho's, there was 20 million Lazar Markovic's. Now the argument there was, but it was a signing committee at Liverpool. Well, Brendan was probably on that signing committee as well. All right. So if it's to be believed that he's going to be getting this war chest to improve the squad and get European oven cooked, oven ready players for this European campaign, is there any concerns at all that you might just fritter a lot of it away, or do you believe that this time around Rodgers will, with this apparent new transfer policy that we have, this we don't hang about, identify a player, approach the player, get him in the door policy that we kind of seen on the Range in the last 2 seasons, does that make you feel a little bit more comfortable about Rodgers getting to splash the cash this season if he comes in? I'm going to keep saying that, if he comes in, until he's signed.
I'm quietly confident about it. I think at the end of the day, every player has some sort of inherent risk, even if you've heard of them or not. Obviously, Ange had brought in a lot of players there that we hadn't heard of, and they turned out to be pretty good, and the opposite can happen. Obviously, you can bring in a player that's quite well established, and they could be a bit of a flop. So it's all these things where we just need to wait and see. It's one of these things we can't really predict just now. I'm quite confident that we will, the signs that will come in will do well. I'm going to remain on that side. But yeah, it's one of these things where we're just going to wait and see, mate. In terms of that, I know his transfers, say, over the years. Yeah, you're right. The Liverpool stuff, some of the names that you mentioned there, I'd completely forgot about. The one that always stands out to me was Balotelli. It was like, that was a crazy risk from him. Although I think part of him was maybe like, he thought, I can change this guy, because Balotelli's a bit of a madman, to say the least. But he probably looked at him and thought, yeah, I like the challenge of Balotelli, so I'm bringing him in. Because obviously that was the Suarez deal. When they sold Suarez, they just went crazy and brought in a whole bunch of players for that money, wasn't it? A bit like what Tottenham did when they sold Gareth Bale and they just went a bit scattergun and brought in like 5 or 6 players with the money. I think it was the same one. Balotelli was a crazy one because he's one that you should just not touch at all. But we're not going to be bringing in players at like that level in terms of like that type of money, I would think. But no, I mean, overall, in terms of the domestic stuff, again, I'm quite confident he's inheriting a strong enough squad anyway, and I think anything he adds will still keep us in the top spot domestically. Mm-hmm. But again, it goes back to that whole point. Is he coming here just for domestic dominance? Been here, done that. The next step is to have a team that is competitive at a good level in Europe, because then the domestic stuff just takes care of itself. So that is going to be the tough one. And there really isn't any easy games in Europe, And when you look at the seedings, I know we're going to be in the 4th pot again, which is going to bring its own problems, to say the least. But there's so many teams, you might look at the group and go, that's quite a favourable one, or we fancy our chances here, then they just turn up and beat you, Like, I know that happened in 2016 with Mönchengladbach. We targeted them as like, this is a team in the group that, we'll beat, and then they came to Celtic Park and just dusted the side 2-0. We'll see how his signings do when they come in. It's one of these ones we just need to wait and see. I'm sure we'll get excited with everyone that comes in over the summer. We'll do many deep dives on them and so forth when they're announced. But we'll need to actually see them out on the park first and foremost, how they perform, and it's going to be that European level. It's going to be the barometer to judge them on.
Regan, he's got a track record of always signing somebody that he's worked with in the past. You get Scott Sinclair. You can look to what's the Welsh boy that went to Liverpool? Remind me.
Joe Allen.
He's got a track record of signing guys that he's worked with that have been successful under him before. Is there anybody in our price range that'd be willing to come and play under Rodgers up at Celtic? Is there anybody that lesser team you would maybe consider, or even? Well, I mean, he's been at Leicester, but he was at Leicester for 4 years, wasn't he? So I suppose you are looking at those kind of guys. Is there anybody in that Leicester team that you could see? Because it's the lazy links. Like I'm doing it right now. There will be some lazy links of guys that he's worked with in the past. Is there anybody that you'd be quite? Oh, I wouldn't mind if you brought him in.
Daka, the striker.
Patson Daka.
Yes.
Patson Daka. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very quick. I don't think he did too well at Leicester. He wasn't much of a goal machine, and he was far better. And was it France he signed him from? Was it Lille or? Yes. It was definitely a French team, wasn't it? Yeah.
But he scored all the goals when they qualified for the semi-final of the European trophy. So,
okay.
I think that guy would be someone to look at. Maybe Schmeichel.
See, that's the one. He's available, and we discussed him only 3 weeks ago in my last appearance on the dignified Sunday Blether. That he was not happy in France, and I think he would be somebody that we should be looking at. He's played in Scotland before. He's worked under Rodgers and had success with Rodgers before. I think that would be a no-brainer, Regan, if I'm honest.
Yes. What about a little cheeky one? The Belgium guy that plays left back, is it? What's his name?
Castagna.
Yes, I think.
No, he's out of price range now, bro. I think he's gone.
No, I think I seen Leicester are looking for upwards of 15 million.
Oof. I thought I seen somewhere. I read online. I can't remember what club it was, but it was a big European club. Apparently, were eyeing him up. I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind seeing. I can't pronounce his name. Iheanacho. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Iheanacho.
Yeah, he was at Man City as a player. I think he's only 24, 25. I think he'd be an interesting signing. I even think Harvey Barnes wouldn't be too bad a shout. Now I know Spurs are putting a cheeky 50 million bid for to try and get James Maddison and Harvey Barnes together, but I can't see that. Can't see that happening. So Yunshu coming up. Patrick McLaughlin is out of contract. He went to Atletico Madrid. He's off skill. Finish reading the sentence before you jump on.
The one thing I want to touch on about Rodgers, David, is right. Rodgers wouldn't be back to beat Aberdeen, to beat Dundee. You know what I mean? He's done that all before. So I don't like this argument that Rodgers is back to beat Dundee, he's back to beat Aberdeen, because he's here to improve the squad to win this league, right? and then as soon as he wins the league, he wants to improve year on year because he wants to make a mark in Europe. He's probably spoke to Martin O'Neill and went, right, Martin, what did you do to get the board to spend upwards of £7 million in players? Because I need exactly the same. Because he probably looks at it and goes, I got a free draw with Manchester City with people that beat on playing in midfield. So this guy just wants backing. I actually think if you look at his first day at Leicester City, he did say the big thing with Celtic was there was a glass ceiling and the board weren't willing to make the next step. If you actually go to his first day at Leicester, there's a newspaper column that actually states the biggest reason that he left Celtic was because Celtic were not willing to make the next step in terms of spending money.
Well, speaking of former players, there was one in the being interviewed just the other day. I think it might have been yesterday in Norway. A certain Mohamed Elyounoussi, when he was speaking to Via Sports, Elyounoussi was asked if he would consider a return to Celtic, and he said, "We'll see. I enjoyed my time there. I didn't get much time to play with the fans, obviously because of the COVID season, and it was mostly without fans. I enjoyed my time there, and you never know." Mark, would you like to see Elyounoussi return to Parkhead? And if he did, would he manage to make an impact? And before you answer that, I just want to give you his stats from this season in the Premier League. He played 33 games. He scored 1 goal and he had 4 assists. Now, before we signed him, his first stint in the Premier League, he played 16 games and he scored no goals. Now, we know what we got from Elyounoussi when he came up to Scotland. He played only 10 games when he first signed in the season, the 1920 season. He scored 4 goals and got 2 assists. He got 1 goal in the Europa League. He got 2 in the League Cup. And then obviously in his 2021 season, he made 45 appearances and he got 17 goals and 8 assists. Now, Elyounoussi, this is a guy who, let's not beat around the bush, he's flopped at both times in the Premier League, I personally think. However, we have seen what he can do in a Celtic shirt. Is this somebody that you would be interested in bringing in, and do you think he would make an impact even if he did?
Well, it's chips, cheese and pussy, Mohamed Elyounoussi. You don't get that thing unless you're a bit of a baller, mate. You know what I mean?
This is a dignified show, Mark, for God's sake, man.
Well, when you're advertising tablets to give you hard-ons, mate, I think we've left our integrity well behind. You know what I mean? There's guys in the Premier League that are playing for teams who play on the counter-attack, whose style of play is more suited to teams that are on the front foot. And Mohamed Elyounoussi fits into that category. I've spoken before about my favourite player, Walton. He was shipped out to St Johnstone on loan, and a team who spend 80% of their football defending, and he's almost an attacking fullback. And how is that going to work out? And it's the same with Elyounoussi. He came to Celtic, and I was really impressed with that guy. I felt when that guy was on it, he was on it. There's a game we played at Hampden, I think we won 4-2. I think Scott Brown got 2 goals, and the guy was just unplayable against Hibs. And it had a few games where I thought he was really impressive. In Europe as well, I'm sure he scored a belter in France. Right,
he did, Mark.
I did. I love the guy. It was one of the only bright lights in that season that was that we'll not talk about. Don't get me wrong. When as Myler Sorrow was a bright spark in that season, then still. I think Elyounoussi playing for Southampton. As I say, they're going to spend a lot of their time watching the other team.
Against the wall, yeah.
They are, David. And you're going to have to put it into perspective. I don't get why teams sign guys like that, because they're not going to get it. They'd be better off, teams like that be better off signing guys who are better. They're more disciplined and better tacklers than guys who are better going forward. I don't understand. There's a lot of money. You mentioned a few players at Liverpool that Rodgers brought in. I think if you brought up Pep Guardiola, he's probably wasted about £1 billion in his career on Diddy teams. So I don't think we can label that against Brendan Rodgers. I think when guys are getting spent for £30 million, getting sold for £30 million in England, that's a £2 million player in Scotland. That's just the price. It's called the Premier League tax. When you buy a player in England who's worth $5 million, he's going to go for 25, 30. Unfortunately, that's football nowadays. And Liverpool can't go out and buy 2 million guys for Tunisia and guys for Holland, and they've got to be seen to be building a squad that the fans are going to get behind. And guys like Benteke and all the rest of it, who did decent jobs for other teams, they're going to finish their careers multi-millionaires and probably get a turnover on transfers at £100 million like Ollie Burke. That's going to happen. I don't think Brendan Rodgers was part of that. And go back to chips and cheese. I think he's going to be an excellent signing. Whoever he goes to, if he picks the right team and picks the right style of play to go to, then he'll be excellent. If it's a Celtic, then that's good for me, because I think Celtic, we've got a lot of wingers who flatter to deceive. I think we've not got enough. For every Jota we've got, I'm sorry to say this, Dave, for every Jota we've got a Maeda, and for every Abada who's on the edge of becoming a good player, we've got a James Forrest who's finished. We need to freshen up our wingers. We've got a lot of wood for Celtic, but the quality I think is lacking. And El Yunusi I think could fit into Celtic, and I think Haksabanovic as well could find himself getting more game time under Rodgers, because he's a very strong player and he can get forward. And I think his shooting is really good. He's just not getting into the right areas.
Do you think we've got the same player in LNUC as we do in Haksabanovic? I see a lot of similarities between the two of them.
That's what I said, David. See, when they signed, I went like, he looks like El Yunusi.
So LNUC, he's now the thing. I think the criticism of him by a lot of fans was he lacked a bit of pace, which I think also you could say the same about Haksabanovic. Now, I'm seeing a lot of the comments now. I'm finding it difficult to disagree, but I'm going to try. A lot of people are saying that there's no sell-on. There's no sell-on value there with Elyounoussi. Now remember, Elyounoussi is only 28. He's only 28 years old. He's in his prime. You can say, we were all hailing the fact that we're signing 27-year-old Kyogos and 27-year-old Juranovic. Now, if we get this guy on a free, I mean, you can take this with a pinch of salt, but the saying his market value is still around the 10 to 12 million mark. Now, if you're signing a guy that's valued at that, he's made big signings to go play in Southampton. He plays for the Norwegian national team. Didn't do too great last night. You can look at the two optics here. Now, you could say, we've signed you've signed a guy that's a Premier League player, a Norwegian internationalist who's done it before for us on a free transfer. Great piece of business, just to strengthen the team. Or you could look at it and say, it's Rodgers' first signing in the season. It's an ex-player who, let's face it, flopped at Premier League level twice on a free transfer. Could that be considered as an underwhelming start to Brendan Rodgers 2.0?
No.
There's two sides. There's two sides to it, Regan.
Who cares? Who cares about money? Sorry, David. Just who cares about money? We're sitting raging that we're selling players after 18 months. Who's not about us as a fan base? We don't need to worry. I think we've got enough money in the bank that we can afford to have one or two players without our sell-on value. If we're signing players just for the understanding we're going to get a profit on them, we're no building houses here.
The club are going to move forward.
We've got space in that squad with the money we've got in the bank where we can afford to have players who are brought in at their peak age. We're going to maybe get 2 years with them at very high level and move on from no profit. I don't think Celtic fans should be concerning themselves about residual values. I don't think Joe Hart was brought in to make profit. He was brought in to do a job and stabilise that defence, and he did a good job.
Mark, spot on.
And I think we've got a squad of players who will go for profit, and we can afford to have 3 or 4 guys in that squad who will just be in to do a job.
I like this comment. I like this comment because it's very interesting. Okay, Bearded Bobber has said an underwhelming, underachieving Elyounoussi is still plenty of talent for the SPFL. However, we're talking about trying to sign guys that make us at a higher level than for European stage, and does he do that? That's the question, because
Yes, he
let's
does.
face it, we know that we've got the talent there to win the SPFL, right? There's no question. Domestically, the league takes care of itself. You know, if we're firing on all cylinders, all right, and as long as we take care of what's happening domestically, which we usually do almost 9 times out of 10, we do that. But does he improve us European level? Regan, you say he does.
David, to play devil's advocate, right? Celtic's last big European win was against who? Away from home?
Lazio.
Yes. And who played that night? Mohamed El Younousi.
So was playing now.
So people need to stop this argument. Oh, don't go back. And sell-on values don't mean anything. Like the sell-on values are things that Peter Limmel can sort out. But I'm not interested in a fan. Like Mark says, I'm not gonna lang to Sunday Park every second week to go, oh my God, right? We better get a guy at 20-year-old in so we can get a good sell-on value. I don't care. As long as he's good for Celtic, then it's good for me. Do you know what I mean? There's no point going through life and saying, oh, we better make sure he's a good sell-on value. Who cares? If he does a job for Celtic and Scotland and the European competition, nobody cares, mate. Nobody cares.
Right,
You know-
Phil.
you know what I
Question.
mean?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Regan. I want to interject. Right, Phil. Right, you're and sorry, you, Regan. So this question goes to you as well, right? The Premier League user fans of it. You watch it all the time. You've heard of Ellie, and you say he hasn't played for Celtic before. Would you be excited to sign him on a free transfer? Yes or no? I just want a yes or no answer. Forget that he's played for Celtic. Forget what he's played for Celtic. You've watched him play for.
But he's
you've
still
watched
got
him
the
play for
same
Southampton.
stats that you read out. If you're
Yes.
saying if it's these stats, then not massively. You're saying what, 33 games this season, 1 goal.
Yeah.
But then I suppose there is a compelling argument about.
Remember, he's played for Basel.
Scott
Remember
Sinclair
about
didn't
Basel.
have good stats this season before he signed for us. So I don't know, man. That's tough
David,
in that situation. It's quite tough, to be fair.
See to play devil's advocate again. He
No,
played
Regan,
in-
I want a yes or a no answer.
I would say yes, and I'm going to back it up, right? Because
Go for it, mate.
he's playing in one of the worst Premier League sides ever to play in the Premier League this season. Bottom of the table, probably one of the lowest ever points in the Premier League season.
We'll
So you
sign
can't,
him up, mate.
so you can't blame. You can't blame him for because Southampton have got poor defenders and poor goalies to go. Oh, we're definitely not going to sign him.
Poor wingers as well, apparently.
I mean, the thing is, David, as well, it's a yes or no question, and I understand it, but I think the justification for people wanting him to come back is based on his time at Celtic. So I don't think you can discount. I don't think you can discount that. But what I will say is,
Spot on again, Mark.
Shut up,
Sorry?
Regan.
Regan, I'm always spot on, mate. I mean, but anyway, this is the thing. Celtic as a football club, unfortunately, where we are on the landscape is we tend not to sign players that you've heard of. When we sign a player, there's always a YouTube video of his best bits. So if I saw a video of El Younousi's best bits at Celtic, it just says signed for left somebody in fucking Russia or something like that.
Played for Basel, mate. He was very good at
Basel, right?
Basel.
Go out, Sweden, Switzerland, and you be going.
So was a Yeti.
You see there's a player there. You go. Don't get me wrong, YouTube. I've told you before, mad I could get a game someday, but I think it's like we signed Fraser Foster. If you looked at his before that, he played for England. He played at Southampton, at Newcastle as a youth player. You say, well, that's a CV that I can get behind. El Younousi, this guy, for all his bad starts, he played last night for his country, and you say to yourself, are they that worse a nation than Scotland that you wouldn't think a guy getting a start for them could come in and play against guys at Motherwell and Aberdeen? And don't forget, on this thing about Brendan Rodgers coming up to beat Aberdeen, Brendan Rodgers isn't coming up to beat anybody. Brendan Rodgers has come up to manage Celtic, one of the biggest and most attractive football clubs in world football. And I think that's the appeal for any football player as well. We should be shooting for the stars because guys like El Younousi can take us to the next level in Europe. They've proven they can play well in Europe. Forget the fact that they've signed for the ranked club, playing in the ranked system, and most possibly for the ranked manager as well. Brendan Rodgers will make anybody better, David. I think that's a
Yeah.
fair assessment.
Could somebody clear this up? Elyounousy never played under Brendan, did he? Did he ever play under Brendan? Did he play?
Lennon signing.
Was it Neil Lennon that
No.
signed him? It was, wasn't it?
Aye.
Yeah. So we'll be now like this again. Why is this is God? What a name? Peg leg.
Lonergan.
Right, cheers, mate.
Lonergan.
It's far. I know it's 11:57. I'm not quite ready for that yet. My eyes are blurry and red. Cheers for that. Why is everyone bringing up freebies and geriatrics? Surely we can aim higher. And this is why I brought it up, because that's why I asked the question. Now, Boise was absolutely slated online for saying that, signing a freebie from and Aaron Moy was an underwhelming signing, or it was a free signing. We want to be signing guys at 6 million plus, the likes of Jotas and Cameron Carter-Vickers. That's why I'm asking it. See if we brought him in. Does the optics there? Does it feel underwhelming signing a guy on a free transfer? That's why I brought it up. But
David, can I add something? The problem you've got is, see if we throw some speculation out there and pick a player. I don't know. I'm trying to think somebody at the top of my head that might be semi-feasible. Let's say Scott McTominay, right? Man United. So he's obviously got Man United as his team, so that puts him in a higher echelon. But a lot of times when you throw names out there, fans will go, we'll never sign a player like that. So it's a battle you can't win right now. We're in a situation where you can only really speculate and guess. Try to predict it. We might surprise everybody. We might sign a player from one of the top teams in England. You just don't know. But at the moment, that's the problem you've kind of got when it comes to this phase, where we can only just speculate and just go on wee flanks. Like Elyounousy said that last night. What would you think about him reappearing at Celtic?
David.
Yes, go on, Regan. When you go.
See, a few weeks ago, David, you done a transfer show on the Sunday Blether, and you said to me, Che Adams. I mean, Che Adams. Everybody on the bus said yes, please. The Che Adams is.
Not in the comments, it didn't. Not in the comments, it didn't. I read those comments.
The fuck did that?
Well, those people that said on the comments of that video afterwards saying Che Adams will never sign a player like him. Again, it's like you can't win the battle, David. It's like you speculate this player, and then like, oh no, we'll never sign him. That's unrealistic, So
That's still take Che Adams. Okay. I can't wait for, just that I was just throwing darts blindly and saying like, oh, it'd be funny if someday one of them, it just would be funny if we started getting linked to one of them. There's Merrill Wyatt, I want to bring up your comment, mate. Can someone explain this narrative of how Rodgers is going to make all these shite players better? I don't know if you're talking about Elyounousy or you're talking about the guys that we were talking about earlier. I think we could go back quickly. I know we've probably gone over old ground here, but James Forrest kept Paddy Roberts out of the squad when his second time running under Brendan Rodgers. Stuart Armstrong went up on a level. Scott Brown went up on a level. The one thing I think about Brendan Rodgers is the Callum McGregor, of course. I think the one thing that we noticed when Brendan left, and it's one of those things that you don't really realise what you've got until it's gone, was the club had this big feel of professionalism around the way the players, kept themselves fit. The way Rodgers dealt with the players that were there. Obviously, we know there was things going on in the background that could have been far better. However, I think when you saw the players' fitness levels and professionalism perhaps dropped when he left, I think that all plays into a factor of like, if that level of professionalism at the club is there, it only helps improve the players that we've got. And I think it's safe to say majority of the average players that maybe weren't performing as well raised their game, and the players that were very good got even better. Now, Mark, you made a good point. You mentioned, these players are they are drawn to coming to play for Celtic. It's not just the manager that's coming in or whatever. The draw still is there. Celtic is still a massive draw for players to come and play our game. Now, give it the papers the other day, the Celtic actually fought off competition from La Liga and the Eredivisie clubs before signing Kyogo Furuhashi from Vissel Kobe during the summer of 2021. And according to the Japan International's representatives, speaking to the Daily Mail, take that with a pinch of salt, it was the history and the reputation of the Scottish Premiership champions that made the difference in the end. He had been trying to get a deal for Kyogo in Spain, Belgium and other countries, and there was an offer from Spain and an offer from Belgium, and there was another one from the Netherlands, says Kyogo's representatives. However, Vissel Kobe were not interested in selling their star man at the time, but when Celtic came along, it was too big of a pull for Kyogo not to want the move. So I think, and we've seen the quality that we got out of Kyogo and hopefully still will get next season. I think it does show that we still have a big pulling power. So like Phil says, Regan, there is still a good possibility that one of these guys that are playing for a top level club, there's maybe not quite doing it there, but still know that there is a player there would be interested to come and play for Celtic and Brendan Rodgers.
They just need to look at Scott Sinclair and talk to him, and speak to Dembele and speak to people like even if you look
even
at
Joe Hart, mate.
Joe Hart now, aye, because I'm even thinking of players that Brendan Rodgers could possibly take. What about Agpom at Middlesbrough? Agpom to the great season, right? And I think we probably need to get in there before any Premier League clubs do, because this guy's going to be world class soon. I know people were a bit weary of signing Tony from Peterborough, but look at what Tony's done. And see Agpom at Middlesbrough, he's been a great player for Middlesbrough this season. Don't know if people have watched him much, but he could be one that Brendan Rodgers is looking at, because if you look at Brendan, all he needs to do is say, look at what Dembele did when he was at Celtic. Look at what Sinclair did. So I know that Agpom's at the top of his game, but I know if it's Brendan Rodgers and Celtic or Middlesbrough, I know where I'm going, because if you look at like Mark says, Celtic's a big platform for players to go. It's very, very good, and I think sometimes we can talk ourselves down a bit. And I think in terms of Kyogo, you just need to look at what Kyogo's did. Kyogo's now getting recognition from the national team, playing a couple of days ago. So I think in terms of Agpom as well, I think Agpom will know as well that he'll speak to people that have been around there, and I think he could possibly be one guy to watch, David, because I think when you look at these players, you're thinking, right, Brendan Rodgers might want ready-made players, but he's also going to want young, vibrant players who want to develop as well. Because look at all the players that have worked under Brendan Rodgers. You've got Suarez, Felipe Coutinho, who was very, very young at that point. Sterling, who was very, very young at that point.
He got him for 8 million, mate. Liverpool got him for 8 million.
Wow.
Wild, eh? That's wild.
It doesn't really get mentioned all that much that he probably made about £100 million profit on these players as well. Liverpool. I think he made a big profit at Liverpool. Don't get me wrong as well, there's a lot of money wasted, but that is England. And just quickly on the question you put to Regan, if you don't mind that, I think having Celtic on your CV is a very good thing for any football player. It proves you can handle scrutiny. It proves you can handle playing in a big stadium with high demand. And that Celtic strip, that's iconic. Anybody that watches football, you even need to see the badge and you know that's Celtic. That's got pulling power, David. There's not many clubs that you go. If you go on holiday to fucking a jungle in Zimbabwe, if it's a jungle in Zimbabwe, you'll see a Celtic pub there. You see somebody with a Celtic shirt. This is a truly massive club. And when you see players talking about the teams they've played for, and they're talking amongst other professionals, and they mention the word Celtic, their heads start to nod. They don't discourage that guy anyway whatsoever. And when you mentioned Joe Hart there, Regan, I think when Joe Hart done his background check on Celtic, as you've heard him saying, he'll have heard 100 good stories about Celtic playing at that fan base. We've got a brilliant training facility. The demands at Celtic are probably up there with any big club in world football. You can't even draw a match without having to buy a newspaper for a week. So that proves on a player's CV that they can handle that. And Celtic have maybe got something that teams that can afford an extra 5-10 grand a week haven't got. Celtic have got a 60,000 seater stadium and a fan base that's probably second to none, really. And that's attractive. That football strip's attractive to see you play for Celtic is something that I think any football player would be proud at the end of their career, David. And I don't think teams like Bournemouth and Aston Villa can offer you that. I really don't.
See, just to jump back in as well, players are going to look at the fact that I'm supposed to call Glenn Brendan, right? I'm supposed to call Glenn Brendan a beat at Celtic, and they've went. I mean, I just went to a top 6 club in England, so they're going to look and go, well, if I can go up here for 2 seasons, do very well, score goals in Scotland, score goals in Champions League, and Brendan Rodgers does very well, gets us to the last, say he gets us to a semi-final of the Conference League or something, right? That's going to be good for the player's CV. Then more people are going to be attracted to them, and then it works both ways, because as much as we don't like Ange to go, see having him go to Spurs, that then brings attention to Celtic and go, well then, if I go to Celtic for 2 years, then more people could be attracted to me.
So, what you're totally right, Regan. You're absolutely right. Do we fall back into that stepping stone FC category if that's the way we're gonna look at it that way? Well, listen, you can't come back. That's okay though, right? That's okay. Yeah, cool. So, what's the problem with Ange doing it then?
Ange, that's fine. See, Ange doing it and Kieran Tierney doing it, and obviously Rodgers doing it. It's absolutely fine. I don't think any Celtic fan. I think we've got a proud history of seeing our players flourishing in other leagues and go to World Cups and playing well. We feel proud about that. Even ex-England players, like we wanted Fraser Forster to do well when they got caps for England. We still want to have that pride to say they've got Celtic roots. What pissed a lot of people off David was he sat 6 weeks ago and he was saying he was going to be here for. You'll be surprised how long I'm going to be here. Punching your chest, playing games with the fans. That's what annoyed fans. I don't think there's many folk. See, being a stepping stone FC. I remember in the 90s when teams like Holland were getting guys like Ronaldo for 2 years at past and on, and we were all saying, how can we not get guys for 2 years in that quality and pass them on? I'm not saying Ronaldo's going to come into it, but I'm saying us as a club, even financially it's good for the club, but us as a fan base, there's an excitement of getting a player in for 2 years or 1 year and watching them excel and then moving them on. We don't always get players like Henrik Larsson who will give you his full best days. It doesn't happen anymore. I think unless you're Barcelona or Real Madrid or even a Man City, you're not going to get that, David. And
you're absolutely right. I just love chucking these bombs in there, watching Mark blow up like it's great.
On Mark's point there, I remember a couple of years ago, and the season that they came back and finished off the tournament when COVID shut down the season, but then they finished off like the Champions League and stuff like a couple of months later. Did Moussa Dembele knock out Man City with Leon?
Yep.
And I remember many Celtic fans on social media loving that Moussa Dembele wasn't a player anymore. He was playing for Leon, dumped Man City out of the Champions League. I remember the David, around that.
Correct, Phil. And we also got a wee bit of buzz when they won the league with Atletico Madrid, even though they didn't actually play much football. And you know something? That's been Celtic fans forever. We always want to see that our players do well. And we get a buzz when a youth player does well at Celtic. We get a buzz when a player that comes from Spain and moves on does well. We want our own kind to excel in life. We don't want to hold them back. So nobody's got a problem with these guys excelling. And do you know something? Just quickly, I know I'm going to wrap up soon. See that there's going to be stories out of the press to try and make the next couple of weeks a bit more unexciting for the Celtic fans. This is the most excited I've been as a Celtic fan since the last time this guy came in. Celtic totally blew my mind when they brought in Brendan Rodgers. I didn't think we would ever be in a situation where we could bring a guy into that standard. We're going to do it again. And forget any stories about wasting money for Balotelli. Forget stories about Dembele falling out behind the training ground. Forget all that. We're going to get a guy who nobody in this league can match. Nobody, okay? That guy will only fail at Celtic for factors out with his control. I'm absolutely buzzing to look at this guy. And no bad. The Daily Mail, and you get more fucking sense out of Daily Thompson, you do at Daily Mail. So you can just discount all that shit. We're a fan base who are used to negative stories, David. And do you know what? The more they write bad things about Celtic, the more joy we get out of our success. And do you know what? Fuck a lot of them, because Celtic are at the top and are going to stay at the top for as long as we want to be there.
David, you were talking about
The judge has spoken.
Sorry, David. Sorry, mate.
No, apologise. I love it. I throw in a bomb there. I just want to see you blow up, mate. It's good fun. It's good
Right,
fun.
right, David, I've got one more thing for you, right? So you were talking about this Stepping Stone FC. So then
No.
would you call Ajax a Stepping Stone FC? Because that's what they do every single summer. And then they bring new players in. Because, see, then you...
Sell players for 100 million, mate.
I know, but what...
Yeah, significant.
But that's not the issue. Forget about the money, David. Regan's not saying that. Forget about the money. Players moving on is a success for Celtic.
Absolutely.
Forget about the money.
You can't forget about the money, though, mate. You can't forget about the money.
That's a separate issue, mate. The money value we get on the resale, yes, I understand that helps the business grow. But that is the issue about us. That's a separate thing for us being a stepping stone club. That us being a stepping stone club, okay, it's hard to hear. But if we bring a player in who's got potential quality, turn them into an excellent player relatively in our league, and then he moves on. We've had a guy who's excelled in our league. See, relatively, I've still said that. I maintain if we get £100 million in the bank tomorrow, we're not going to spend it anyway, right?
No.
So
Right.
let's be serious here. Celtic may move players on for big profits or just a profit. If we get players to excel for the fans, like me and you, David, on the park, Celtic have got a structure in place where we don't rely solely on player trading models. We will have players littered out of that team that will make profit on. So we're secure, we're safe.
David.
What we care about is that the players on the park, and we've got players on the park just now who can also make a profit, but they can excite you and win matches, and that's all as a Celtic fan we should be concerned about.
Yeah,
David,
you're right, mate. This is fun. Go on, Regan. Give me something.
Right, David. So you're talking about no be Stepping Stone FC, right? Well,
I'm not saying not to be stepping stone. I asked the question: would that put us back into that category? That's all I was asking. So all I was asking this whole like, no, we want to sign guys and keep them for 5 years.
Regan, go for him. Regan,
go for him. Go for the juggler. Regan, kill him. Go for it, mate. Go for it.
So
do you know what? That's what I'm asking, Regan. That's what I was asking. Is that all right? Are you happy to go back to being a stepping stone? Yes. That's all I was asking. So all I was asking, Regan, right? Cheesy peeps, man. Cheesy peeps, man.
See if Callum McGregor was a die-hard Celtic fan. Callum McGregor would have left about 2 or 3 seasons ago because he's well above that level. I think the thing that we need to realise is, see, once we get a great player like a Virgil van Dijk and a player like that, they're going to go.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
And we just need to enjoy it while we can.
It's got to go. It's him or me.
You're spot on, mate. You're absolutely spot on. You've sent me to the cleaners with that one, but it's good fun. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I was just asking the question. You're getting hot up in my face, man. I don't understand. I will go away for 3 weeks and you throw this kind of shade at me. Look,
David, you come at Regan and you face the consequences, mate. It's as simple as that.
If you take a shot at the king, you better not miss me. You know.
I think David's been on the phone to Jim White and Simon Jordan trying to get me back debate.
Listen, see that Simon Jordan quickly, right? So I popped up on my YouTube. I've got these shots, right? So I don't know about this guy who's want to give advice on football management, etc. This guy, right? He sacked 5 managers in 30 months, right? He was at a club for 9 years and went through 7 managers. Took a club for the Championship and into the Premier League. Then 1 season later into administration, and he's giving advice on a football show about how football clubs should structure their management. 2 of the managers took him to court. You know what I mean? That's this guy. 2 of his managers took him to court. 1 of them won an appeal, and then, as I said, they sacked 5 managers in 30 months. So please, Simon Jordan, take your wee blonde wig, right? Okay, and go away and talk about business. Don't talk about football, especially when you're talking about Brendan Rodgers, a guy who, if he spoke about football, would lose him within 1 sentence. Dick.
Right, Phil. I feel like you've not heard from you in ages, mate.
You haven't?
No, apologies.
Sorry, Phil.
I'm getting told off by Charles Sweeney for being rude as well, so I do apologise if I've upset you, Regan, for having a laugh with my friend on a podcast, but that's all good. It's all fun and games in here. Maybe I wasn't being very dignified. I do apologise. Phil, we're going to get this wrapped up soon, but quickly, I just wanted to quickly touch on, because we've not managed it yet, because Mark and Regan are picking on me. As it stands, the Scottish champions are waiting for the final pot to be decided alongside Newcastle United and Real Sociedad. The final standings will be revealed when the victors are merged with the qualifying rounds, but as it stands, the club are likely to go into pot 4.
Yeah.
For the Hoops to move up from pot 4, 5 of the 6 qualifiers would have to have a lower coefficient than the Scottish treble winners. So, looking at pot 1, we'll look at pot 2 and pot 3. As it stands, there's only 3 of the 26 teams already in the groups that will be ranked below Celtic in the draw. Union Berlin, Lens, and La Liga side Sociedad. And if they do land in pot 4, an uphill battle awaits with a group of death almost guaranteed. Yeah. So apparently the worst scenario that we could face, guys, right, is we could get Manchester City in pot 1, with Real Madrid in pot 2, and then get AC Milan in pot 3.
Jesus. Okay. Oh my God.
I hope this 5-year plan's going to work like.
6-year plan now. We need to put it back a year. That's unfortunately. That's the problem with it. It's a luck of the draw. We won't know until the end of August. I mean, again, with the whole coefficient stuff and the points and how it works, you're saying that even Newcastle would be above us in the rankings. When was the last time they were even in Europe? Strange stuff. But I expect to be in pot 4 anyway. I fully expect. I know it's going to take all sorts of weird things to happen in the qualifiers to move us up. So be it. We just need to dust ourselves off and just have a go at whatever we get. I'm expecting it will be a tough group regardless. Again, look at last year. It did look like a very favourable group. Made a bit of a mess of it in the end. Will we get a group like that again? It's quite unlikely. So you just need to, beggars can't be choosers at this point, and we just need to take whatever we get, just give it our best shot, and hopefully have some kind of European football after Christmas.
Well, our best case scenario, our most hopeful case scenario would be that we pull Sevilla or Feyenoord out of pot 1.
Well,
and then we get Leipzig out of pot 2, and then either Red Star or Belgrade or Shakhtar in pot 3. So like you said, we can only see what we get. Just see what we get.
Aye.
So I'm looking forward to it regardless. It's going to be interesting, like you said, with Brendan Rodgers coming back potentially, most likely, fingers crossed. I'm just like Mark. I am buzzing about it. I think even the guys that were, it was a sore one to take when he did leave. But I think, deep down, because we know what we had there, and I think that's why it hurt so much when he left. But listen, time's a healer for some. Anyway, Regan, I'm sure you're just as buzzing as Mark is about having him back. It's going to be fun, and I don't see. Well, you'll maybe know this best. Regan having affiliation with Spurs. Do you? Chris Sutton doesn't believe that Postecoglou would come back for any of our players. Quickly on that, do you agree with Chris on that one?
You already look at Andy's track record. He goes back for former players, so I don't know if he'll be nice to Celtic and think, I need to be good to the fans and all that sort of stuff. Because it's sorry to say that, boy, he was in Japan for a couple of years and he wasn't good to their fans. So we need to look at both sides. I'm always the straight down the middle kind of guy. You need to be open and say, well, obviously he had an affiliation with Yokohama FC. And there's French Eddie. Hi, French Eddie. Is that French Eddie Barton?
Yeah, you can tell by the accent.
Merci beaucoup. No, I think in terms of that, I think he probably will go back. I think it'll probably just be one player. I think it'll be Rio Hatate. But like I was saying, if we can get a good selling value for him, then that would be ideal. But no, I think we need to be level-headed about it and say everywhere Andrew's been, he took his players, David. I'm sure he had a great affiliation with the Japanese league, and he still went to there. So we need to be realistic about it.
Yeah, I think so too, mate. And that's been an hour and 19 minutes, guys. Well, an hour and 20. Let's just be around the bush. An hour and 19. Anyway, thank you for joining us. we were over 200 for the majority of the shows, up to like 250, 270 at one point. Phil, guys,
Wow.
joined us on a Sunday morning.
Not
We're
bad.
dignified. So
Dignified indeed.
dignified Sunday Blether, as much as we always try our best, don't we, guys? That's it. It's always good fun with having the Sunday team on with me, and I'm always leaving bruised on the ribs and in the face when Regan and Mark come at me when I'm just asking questions, guys, honestly. But no, it's always fun. I always have a laugh on this. It's great. I'm glad to be back. 3 weeks I've been off, and I think I got the cobwebs off. You got thrown to the wolves, you might say. Do thank you for all joining us. Regan, what you got to say before we go, mate?
I'm just saying to the people, if you don't see me back next Sunday, you know me and David have fell out. So,
Well, actually, I'm going holiday next Sunday, so you might not see. No, in fact, I might. It depends if my flight's at 3 o'clock. So, if we do the show early enough, I'll be able to do a wee post-holiday Sunday Blether.
Get you to do it live from the plane, mate.
Aye, I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, there'd be folk trying to hijack that thing, wouldn't they? Just to cut me off air. To be fair.
Right, guys, thanks again for joining us. Phil, thank you for coming on again, as always, mate. Regan, it's always a pleasure. We'll get you in the group chat later. And Mark, enjoy your holiday. If I don't speak to you before then, I'm sure I will. But guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And there'll be plenty shows, I imagine, tomorrow and for the rest of the week. So we will see you. We'll see you all then. Cheers.
Right, catch you well.